Hello, everyone, and welcome to Recipe for Reality. Zach is laughing, and because you see a picture of him and no face, it's because, well, you can see a face, but just not his actual face.
It's just not me.
It's because he's in the car driving home from work, and honestly, this was the only time we could record this because our lives are busy, and especially now, in the midst of, peak musical, high school musical theater season. So, and Survivor's tonight, because this will be airing Wednesday morning. So, we wanted to get these rankings.
We needed to get things out.
Yeah.
We
Bachelor...
care about you and love you so much that we would do anything to make sure that you got this content.
I love it. So Zach is in his car driving, so we are not seeing his face because he needs to focus on the road, but his audio, his voice is coming through. He's going to hear me as if we're on a phone conversation.
Yeah, you're getting our raw thoughts. You're getting our raw thoughts from a phone call.
And of course, because we're so short on time because we don't want to make him sit in his car for 2 hours. We're not going to be talking about Bachelor, even though a lot ensued. We have literally four episodes. We have 4 episodes of Bachelor to cover, 2 whole weeks of Bachelor. So we figured, why don't we save those 8 hours of Bachelor, the discussion, for the weekend? So we will either do it live stream. We might be together live streaming, whatever. We will get you an episode this weekend talking about our finale thoughts. But we wanted to just talk about the Survivor premiere today. And first, I want to bring up, I don't know if Zach can see this, but
I can see everything. This is not a good start for me.
Oh, here we go. Probably the biggest swing ever taken in this power rankings game. Jackson and Zach go home, which I'll talk about, but I had Zach in the very last spot. Zach had Zach in the very first spot, as predicted, because Zach's name is Zach, so I had no doubt in my mind that he would pick Zach. But Zach goes home first. Actually, he goes home second, but it doesn't matter because in this game, we play wherever you had them, that's the amount of points you get.
Right.
He also had Jackson in second, so Zach got a whopping total of 3 points, whereas I had Jackson in 11th and Zach in 18th, so I had a whopping 29. So I have taken a 26-point lead over this Zach because I had Zach from the show Zach in the right spot. We'll talk about their eliminations in a second. I want to kind of go just take us through the episode and kind of go tribe by tribe. Let's start with this opening challenge, though. A really interesting twist where these 3 players, Lindsay, Hai, and Drea, are forced to basically make an alliance on the spot to either decide to go for this twist or leave it be. They, of course, go for the twist, and the twist ends up being this sort of medallion power where if they use it together amongst the 3 of them, they can get, I believe it's a steal a vote. If they are able to eliminate one of them, then the 2 people remaining can use it for a extra vote. And if one of them is able to eliminate the other 2, and they are the only person left remaining of these 3, then they have an idol. So this really comes into the play of trust and honesty, especially between tribe alliances. This is so interesting because we're not going to get a tribe swap. It's going to be very much like last season. So we're literally going to have to wait till the merge to see if this happens. Or we could even see them try to use the fact that they're on other tribes to target them now early ahead of time, see how they get the news out to the other tribes, say, hey, you need to target Lindsay or Drea or Hai. These are also 3 really, really strong players. So it's really interesting to see this, kind of cross-tribal alliance, but also this underlying thing of, well, if we want an idol, though, we're going to have to vote each other out instead of working together. Zach, what do you think is the optimal move? Do you think you try to get to the merge with them and then work together, just use that steal a vote and take the target off your back? Or do you go into the merge saying, hey, I want to target these people? Or do you try to target them even earlier and try to send messages to the other tribes?
Honestly, I would probably try and target early, only because if we learned anything from last season, especially Jeff kept making kind of references to how different this game is now. Mm-hmm. It's fast. It's fast. It's dangerous. And the idea that, you've really got to make moves quick. And I would think to hedge a bet on, gaining an ally from this potential twist, it stands to bite you in the ass. And I think that if it's me in the game, I'm taking a swing early, and I'm kind of showing myself as
because you want that idol.
Yeah, you want the idol, you want the ability to stay safe if you need it, but also to hope that those other people are going to be in the game by the time that you get to that merge is a lot to ask of them. And for your own, this is where Survivor is. Is it a personal game or is it a game as a tribe? And then you have to kind of make that swing.
Right. And then we also see in this challenge, Daniel dislocates his shoulder and has it immediately put it back into place. But the doctor does tell him you have to be careful because if you do anything bad to it again, it'll pop out. And this was a big worry of mine because obviously just looking at these 3 tribes, the blue tribe wins this challenge. But in the next challenge, you see the blue team is obviously the weakest. It's very interesting to see how these challenges are balanced. I hope they're balanced to where we don't get a Luvu situation, but it seems very clear that this orange tribe, despite losing Jackson first, is the strongest tribe, followed then by green, followed then by blue. But blue ends up winning this because of Roxroy. But then the next challenge, we see Roxroy is the reason they lose, Roxroy and Zach. So I think it's an interesting balance of these three tribes. Do you think one tribe in particular does stand out to you? Do you think this orange tribe is going to lose because of Jonathan and Lindsay? Or do you think this is a season where we could see multiple people losing and, like it being a more competitive pre-merge game?
I think that I think it seems more like we have a really good balance of challenges that are not only physical, but like they require a lot of mental wherewithal. So I don't necessarily think that we've got this orange team kind of like locked in a Luvu situation. I do think that given the past, given Survivor's past, we could see, a fair amount of kind of like imbalance, especially like, I'd love to say like, oh, we'll get a good lot of mental wherewithal, and then, we end up in that pre-merge, and even like right as the merge occurs with a lot of physical challenges and not many mental ones. So I think that orange stands a good chance, but I think if this premiere proved anything, it does prove that there's not one person on that team who's going to be able to just fully lead them to victory, meaning that they're going to have to either work together or they're going to lose. And I don't think they're as cohesive as Luvu was, to the point where, they're going to be able to push their way through challenges. I think it's going to be a more even battlefield, which I like.
Yeah, which I hope so.
I don't want just a constant, okay, cool, we'll see, whatever it was, Shannon Ricard's tribe. Okay, we're going to see them again in tribal. Like, they're going to be down to 2, and then it's going to have to go to somebody else eventually.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I really do think that blue tribe is in the weakest spot. Even getting rid of Zach, I still think they're in the weakest spot, and I do have a lot of them lower on my ranking when we get to it, but I also think this is the season where we could see switch-ups, because we did see Roxroy's tribe, they were in last, and then Roxroy got him to first, and they won that challenge, but then the second challenge, they were practically worthless in that challenge. And in both challenges, the green tribe ends up like placing kind of in the middle, and I think this green tribe is interesting because immediately we were so down on Jenny, but Jenny ends up being the star of that green team, figuring out those triangles. And I think that the triangle thing really showed us this season that like people like Jonathan aren't invincible, because Jonathan was like, I count 9, and Omar was like, what, dude? He's like, sit this one out. And I think that's going to actually help Jonathan later on, because Jonathan has the potential now to say, but I'm no puzzle guy. And later on in the game, it's not all about, who's able to carry the boat through the water with the whole tribe on the boat, which he did. He's going to be great in the tribe phase. But when we get individual, I could see him playing like a Danny-like game, in the fact that like he doesn't have the puzzle strategy-wise, that he might not be as big a threat as we think. Whereas someone like Drea has shown to be very well-rounded across the board. Even like someone like Hai is very well-rounded. But I'm very excited to talk about these players. I think we should get into our rankings soon, but I just want to talk about the 2 who went home. Obviously, the Orange Tribe takes the first casualty with Jackson, who shares a beautiful story. Him and Daniel really had the best stories of the night.
It really is like heartbreaking.
Yeah, it hurt to see him go, and he goes because of a medical thing, something with clearing his meds for the trip. He got, obviously on this lithium, and he was going through, I believe, lithium withdrawal. He did not tell them he was on lithium, and so he did not have the lithium out there. And with lithium withdrawal is not good when it comes to like dehydration and all that stuff. But he was still kind of on the lithium when he was out there, so it was just a big mess. My question is, why don't the producers just say, because they have alternates out there, every show has to have alternates. You have to, especially when you have a 16-person or 18-person cast. You can't afford to lose people. If you had a 20-person cast, you could easily cut it down to 18, but you can't cut 18 down into anything. So, like, they should have been prepared to throw an alternate out there, and I get they wanted to use Jackson's story, but at what point do we say that this is exploiting a story when you know they're going to pull him? Because Jeff even said from the first day that producers were keeping their eye on him to see if he could make it. But I think from the beginning, the producers knew he wasn't going to last because of his medical situation. So do you think, because I personally think they should have let him do another season once he's better and able to compete. And even though you risk that story, you still have other great stories. Daniel had a great story. Marianne had a great story. Even Jenny had a great story. Mike Turner, like all these people are able to bring it I get you wanted the LGBT representation, of course, and I would love to see Jackson on a future season or even on like a Big Brother where he can be in a house and not starving and dehydrated. But like, why not have the alternate go on? You know, I feel like someone's spot just got wasted because they wanted to use the story. And it's a great story, and I love that Jackson was on our TV, but I feel like Jackson's time is cut short, and it's unfair because he doesn't get to play the game, and it's unfair to whoever was waiting as an alternate because if it was 3 days earlier, he could have played. You know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about the Jackson?
So I do want to give, and maybe this will come back to bite me, but again, I'm going to give CBS the benefit of the doubt here. Mm-hmm. And if, you know, to kind of combine with what you're saying, Dill, and also just like kind of my own thought process behind it, because it really does seem like, part of me, a really shitty move to just, you know, have this amazing story put there as fodder to, you know, garner views and like make Survivor look good. So what I'm kind of hoping is I'm hoping that they did all of this because they see how great of a story Jackson has. They see what a great guy he is and what a great, you know, man he's become through his, you know, his transformation basically. And my hope is that in doing that and kind of unfortunately wasting the spot, because I do agree, you know, as two people who want to play the games, to see that, you're frustrated because like that's my spot, you know, like I could be there. I am hoping that what this means is they build up kind of a comeback story for Jackson, even if it's even if it happens to be suddenly later in the season, or if it happens to be in a season that we see in the next couple of months, they get to bring Jackson back and say like, we're bringing back Jackson, you know, bigger and better than he already was.
Yeah.
And I don't use that as a story.
And I don't blame Jackson whatsoever for this because I think
not at all.
I think Jackson was actually trying to just like say, oh, I don't need that when I'm on the island or whatever he did when he was withholding that information.
When you're offered the opportunity to play the game, I mean, you know, you got to think about like what's going on through your mind, and there's so much adrenaline that runs through your body. You know, we know this. We know this as people who, you know, just deal with things on everyday lives. You get excited about, you know, a job, whatever it is. That adrenaline that courses through your body truly for that moment does convince you, like, I don't need anything else. So I would venture to say that was less of an oversight on his part, probably way more of an oversight on CBS. But it seems like they're really hyping him up for something. So I'm hoping for that. Hopefully. I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, Jeff handled it very well too. But I could tell there was frustration on all parties because I don't like the narrative of Jackson got caught. I like it more of just like if production really knew this was going to happen. I wish they just pulled him pre-game.
They had faith in him, and it just looked like he wasn't going to be able to do well.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate, but I do hope we see him again. But later on in the episode, we see Marianne and who was it? Marianne, Drea, and Jenny go on a mission. They go on that little I almost said Everest, but that little peak that Evie and them and Leon and Shan had that beautiful moment. The summit,
the summit.
Yeah. And they have that great moment. Obviously, Drea and Marianne risk their vote, and it ends up working because Jenny keeps her vote. So Marianne and Drea now have an extra vote. So Drea now has this medallion and an extra vote. Marianne has an extra vote. Jenny didn't lose her vote, so she still has a vote. And especially with that tribes dynamics, I can't wait to talk about it when we do our rankings because that's I think that's the most interesting in terms of tribe dynamics because there's 3 distinct pairs on that tribe, that green tribe, which we'll talk about. And then, of course, you know, Hai has the medallion and Lindsay has the medallion. So I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room, being that Zach was the first boot, first actual boot in terms of vote out. And obviously, I give him credit for trying so hard, but this did seem very much like a super fan getting so eager that they overplayed. Now, meanwhile, Tori is also a super fan that I think overplayed, and she was my winner pick. So to see that it was going to be one of the two of them, I knew one of us was losing our first boot, our winner pick, and it broke my heart. But I do think Tori had one extra element, and that's that she was a therapist. She could read people, and she knew exactly how to get herself out of that scenario. And I think coming clean to the camp and just saying innocently, I wasn't looking for an idol. I don't know who said that. And for everyone immediately to be like, well, Zach told us this, or Zach told us that, or Zach must have told Tori that, because they were like, how did this information get to Tori anyway? And it was Zach. So I think Zach didn't know he was overplaying, but was overplaying. I think just because he was playing at a higher fan level. And I think that transcribed to over-eagerness. As a super fan who picked him to win, like, what do you think Zach did wrong? And do you think, like, this was the smart move to get rid of him? Because he and Romeo are so small, and I didn't realize this. They were, like, twigs, and I think on the island they're only going to get skinnier. So do you think this was a
Right.
good move to keep the challenge strength? Who would you have gotten rid of?
So I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna stick with my guns. I don't think it was a good idea to get rid of him. Truthfully, I wouldn't have gotten rid of Tori either. I would have gotten rid of Swati, because I think Swati, she seems more like the person right now who's just so willing to throw anyone under. And to me, I think that would raise a red flag.
Because we see Roxroy is the one who's like, I kind of want to go for Zach, Roxroy wants to go for Tori or something. I don't know who wanted to go for who, but Swati was the one who threw out Zach's name. Because I think Tori and Drea wanted to go for Roxroy, Zach wanted to go for Tori, and then Swati pivoted the vote to Zach. So I think Swati controlled that vote, but I'm with you. I think her calling the shots this early is going to be tough because she's not the person you're going to rely on for strength like Drea. I ultimately think the decision between Tori and Zach did come down to strength, because I do think Tori is an actual asset in challenges, which I think is going to keep her around. We'll get to it in our rankings, but yeah. But
so to kind of sum up my feelings on Zach, kind of quickly, I'm going to quote Robin Cass. I listened to a podcast that she did with Victor and Nicole from Big Brother, and she quoted kind of herself and a lot of casting producers as saying, like, at these open calls, some people walk in and they look great for the game, but as a team they go, they're just not ready yet, and like they need a couple more years. And to be honest, I think that's him. I think that Zach is a great player who, again, we're super fans of both shows. You're a super fan of Survivor. I'd call myself a super fan of Big Brother. God only knows what we'd do if we got in the house or on the island. And you want to say that you'd play the perfect game, but I think in trying to worry about playing the perfect game and
I think we lost Zach for a bit. So I will just carry on because Zach's driving. So this would be a good time for a picture change if we're changing up our pictures. Zach, are you there? I'm just going to pop him out and back in. Zach, are you there?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, I got you.
These are some of the things that we fall victim to.
It's okay. Do you want to transition into rankings now, or do you have one last thing to say?
The only thing is, like, when I respect Zach and his game hard. He tried, man. He tried real hard. And I just think he's gone. I think he's gone a little too soon. I hope, kind of selfishly, I hope that they'll regret that decision, getting rid of him, not even necessarily over getting rid of Tori, but getting rid of someone who actually isn't going to be super helpful for the tribe. But you know what? Let's just rank them.
Yeah, because I think getting rid of Zach is going to make the tribe stronger, but I don't know if it's going to make them strong enough to beat the other two yet. And
smarter,
I think that's just the thing.
Necessarily smarter.
I really think it was the nail in the coffin was the fact that Zach didn't do well in the puzzle. Because I think if he had done well in the puzzle, there's that redemption of him and Swati on the puzzle. But I think that was what did him in. But let's start at the top from number one, because we're going to go number one. Then our boot prediction will be our number 16. Zach, I know you're like driving, so this is all.
I'm doing this kind of on the fly, but I have a general idea of who I need to.
I'm gonna write yours down so you just know who you still have left when we get to the end of it. But who is your safest? Who is your number one not going home this week whatsoever?
I'm gonna go with Drea. I think Drea is very. I mean, she's got that extra vote. She does right by her tribe. Again, I'm going very based off of my memory right now, but I do I'm going with my instinct. I think she is the safest, and then to even just give you my second, so we can I can get the both out of the way. Marianne is my second as well with that extra vote. I think in the game, advantages are key, and they've both got an advantage. And that's super important right now.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Drea's going home because in the preview it was like Tori and Swati were talking about getting rid of her. But I think anytime you put someone's name in the promo, except for the one time I think where Tiffany went home last season, like that has never happened. That has never panned out.
It's a real 50-50.
Yeah, she's my number 2 right now because of like you said, with all the advantages. And even without the advantages, if her tribe loses, if they get rid of her, they're going to keep losing because she is the strength in their tribe. We saw Roxroy won it for them in the reward, but in the immunity challenge, Roxroy blew it. So really, he's not the strength. It's Drea. And I think Drea is stronger than Tori. I think Drea is stronger than Romeo. I think Drea is stronger than Swati. I think Drea is stronger than Roxroy. So I think that tribe, if they lose, they have to think about strength because otherwise they're going to be 4 members to everyone else's 6 and 5. So I really think she's safe. I have her at second only because that tribe is probably going to lose, so I can't say she's 100% safe. At number 1, I have Jonathan, because I think if that tribe loses, even though we have talked about the fact that like he's not 100% safe in terms of like you can still get rid of him, and I still think earlier on though they're still going to be thinking this is our big strong guy. So even if they lose, I don't see them taking that shot because you really want to have a numbers advantage going in the merge, and I really think he is safe if they lose.
Agreed.
And I don't even think they're going to lose. I have the orange team, the lowest I have anyone on the orange team is 10th. So I have 6 people below that whole orange team. And I think that just goes to show how strong that orange team is. And I'll be honest, Dre is the only person on blue that I have above 11th. So I have the other 4 blue tribe members all the way down at the bottom because I think blue is going definitely. But who knows? I mean, I have Marianne a little lower. Who's your number 3?
Number 3 is Jonathan for that reason. I just think he's too, and you really, I mean, I was proved wrong last season. Now knowing the game a little bit, the pre-merge big guys are really like your bread and butter.
Yeah.
You've got to keep anyone strong. You really have got to keep around. Otherwise, you're kind of sitting ducks by the time you get to the merge. And you know what? The truth of the matter is that by the time you get to the merge, those guys who are big and strong, they are in very dire need of like consistent regimen, especially when it comes to like muscle toning and things like that. Because we saw those stronger guys, they weren't the ones winning the merge challenges. It was the smaller, more agile members.
So like
they're great to keep around pre-merge. They'll go quickly at the merge, and I think that's you keep them around so you can kind of dupe them into giving you that vote by the time you get to tribal.
So at number 3 and 4, I have them right behind Drea because I think that scene of them all, which I would gotta say is hilarious, of them rubbing blood all over themselves, because like why would there be blood or mud in Fiji? But I love that scene, and I think it's all gonna come to play later on. I don't see any of them going home. So at 3 I have Lindsay, at 4 I have High, because I think those 3, Drea, Lindsay, and High, that's my 2, 3, 4. I think that storyline is something that's really going to propel later on in the season. I don't think we're going to see it all happen right away. I think there might be some talk of it early on, but I think it would be so cool to see them get into the merge and then have to turn on each other to get this idol. So I really don't think they're going anywhere. And I think Lindsay's well positioned. She's the strongest girl on that tribe, on a already very strong orange tribe. And then High on the green tribe. We're using colors because it's easier to remember that way. But High on the green tribe, I think, is one of the safest too. We saw the green tribe have the 3 pairs. It's Jenny and Mike, the 2 older people, High and Lydia, the 2 like quirky, funny people, and then kind of Daniel and Chanel in the middle. So I think if Daniel and Chanel, I don't know which way they're going to go, but I think even if High and Lydia are targeted, I think Lydia will be targeted more so than High. So I think High is okay. So that's why I put Lindsay and High at my 3, 4. And then just to give you my 5, I have Marianne at 5 for the reasons you said, just because she has the advantage of the extra vote, and she was such a focal point of the first episode. She really didn't need to be until that summit. So that just makes me think that they're really going to push her as this huge character, and I see her being almost like your Nasir of the season, just that like we love seeing them play, even though they might not be the best gamers. I think we're going to see her a lot this season, so I have no reservations putting her this high.
And you know what? I know I'm kind of doing it on the fly, but this is truthfully where I would put them anyway. At 4, I have High, and at 5, I have Lindsay. But again, it's for very similar reasons. It's their placement kind of in that storyline, but also they're like they're some of the physical peaks of their team, and they need to be present. And you really can't get around it when you've got people like, Lydia and Romeo and, those more like, okay, like we're just kind of gonna like rely on the strength for now while we need them, and then we kind of come forward, and whoever's remaining by the time you get to the merge, that's when the hacking away really begins.
Who's your number 6?
You know what, man? She was my first boot, and I gotta throw her at 6 because I just think she's too valuable an asset. It's Jenny, man.
I have her at 6 too. I have her and Mike at 6 and 7. Yeah.
She was really. I really didn't expect a ton, and I was pleasantly surprised and proved wrong.
Yeah, and I like how
admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I like how when she was frustrated with her tribe because they were counting all the triangles wrong, she was like, let me just focus on this. She didn't take her aggravation out on them. She took it out on the confessionals, and she gave us a sassy confessional where she was like, they don't know what they're doing. And I love that because it's very clear that she knows exactly when to open her mouth in front of them versus in front of the cameras.
And
I think
shows
she's got a good
great
social
control.
awareness.
It shows, that's what I was going to say. Great control over the game, great awareness of what's important in the game, because the confessionals matter now because they're seeing them live, or they're seeing them as this occurs, but no one gives a shit about the confessionals when you're there. That's for TV, and that's for your producers, and she's got great awareness of the game because of that reason.
I have her at 6 too. Yeah, it's great.
I know you've got Mike at 7. I've got Omar at 7.
Okay, Omar's my 8, so we're right around.
I like his vibe. I think he's still a great asset, and he's really he's prominent enough that he's he's ready to call people out on his shit. But I don't think again, he's kind of like my middle ground. He's kind of where what's it called? Where I'm trying to remember. Like Deshaun was falling for me. Last year, where I was like, you're a really great character in the season. I appreciate what you're bringing. I'm hoping that you stick around long enough to give me more. I just don't, I think as we get further in, you got to watch that mouth. But I think once we get there, it's going to be a matter of how does he navigate around this? And we're going to see that kind of formulate for him.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as we said with Jenny. She's very good at knowing what to play to the camera and what to play to his tribe mates. I do think having Jackson leave now, he is officially the next strongest guy. Obviously, there's only 2 guys on that tribe, but I really think if they lose, I don't think they want to risk losing Jonathan, Lindsay, or Omar. And even though I have Omar below Marianne, only because Marianne got a better edit, I really don't see any of the 4 of them going. If anyone goes from that tribe, it's going to be Mariah, and even then, I don't really think they're going to lose. I think Omar's in a great position right now just because his tribe is in a great position. I think later on, he'll be a really good endgame player, but I think right now, the reason we're not getting a lot from him is because that tribe we don't need to get a lot from. The preview showed Marianne taking a hatchet to a tree because I think that tribe is going to get a lot of the character moments, kind of like the Luvu tribe. It had the Sydney and Nasir moments, 100%. And Sydney and Nasir were the first 2 people out of Luvu. So I think I honestly think that's going to be a more character-focused tribe, whereas we're going to see the real strategy and the actual eliminations happen on the other 2. At number 8, at number 7, I had Mike. I think Mike and Jenny could be targeted for being old, but I think Mike is really taking charge as the leader of that tribe, and I think he's the strongest person on that tribe. I think High overall is probably the best in challenges, but in terms of just brute strength, I think Mike has it. And I think Jenny and Mike together is a really good brains and brawn combo. I think people are liking Mike, and I think if it does become Lydia and High versus Mike and Jenny with Chanel and Daniel in the middle, I could see either the 2 pairs turning in on Chanel and Daniel, or I can see Chanel and Daniel, if they are the swings, siding with Mike and Jenny because they're older and wiser and they're going to keep their shit together better than High and Lydia, because High and Lydia are kind of that new school player, kind of that, you get a little sketched out sometimes because they're almost thinking too far ahead. They're almost too progressive in their thinking in terms of the game. Whereas Mike and Jenny are more old school where you can just ride or die with them and be happy. It's kind of like one of those things where are you going to get rid of Brad, even though he's strong, even though he's a kook, or are you going to go for someone who's Jeannie, who's a lot softer and probably not great in challenges, but is going to be more loyal. And I think that's going to be the situation. I think Mike is more loyal, and I think Mike could be a big player later on. But I think right now he just is that foundation for that tribe, and I really see him doing well early on at least. Yeah.
He is also my 8 again.
Okay.
I
same top 8. Same top 8.
I was going to say, I hate to say it, but I think that especially pre-merge, these lists are going to look very similar unless something big happens in an episode that we fundamentally disagree on. Because that's kind of what happened last season. I was also watching for the first time, so I was learning the game a little bit more. Now a little bit more savvy at the game. I have a little bit more of an understanding of who's more of an asset here, there, and all around. But even so, I think that it's just it's very clear. It's the game of Survivor, and that's kind of that's the way it's played well.
Yeah. Who do you have at your number 9 spot?
Number 9, I have a list. Don't judge
I'll tell
me.
you who you have left if you need it.
I think I know.
Okay.
I think I have Daniel at number 9.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
I just only because I still think he's a little bit more better off than the other. I don't want to. This is going to sound really bad, and I don't mean it like this. I think he's a little bit better off than some of the other less athletic and assisting players. And especially with that shoulder injury, I think people are going to look at that and they're going to be like, but I think even with that injury, it's going to come down to all right, but he's still got some strength to him, and and he's, I don't think his story's finished yet. I think they gave us that great story to showcase it a little more. I could be wrong. I'm putting, if I'm honest, I had him kind of flip-flopping with Lydia. And even so, it's she follows right behind him at 10, and that really is like I don't know how good I feel about either of them. I'm kind of picking at straws, and I might have a little bit of a bias last place right now, but all things considered, like I think that the two of them could talk their way out of being in the bottom if they needed to. It's just a matter of how does it pan out.
At number 9, I have Daniel's ally, Chanel, because I think if that tribe loses, I still think Daniel or Lydia would be the boot, even though Chanel was very clearly shown without an ally. And that's my one worry for Chanel, is that she's so good at the game because we saw from her preseason, but when she was out there, she was like, I don't have anyone, so I guess I got to work with Daniel. And it didn't seem like she was excited to. And I think that's the difference, because a lot of people are saying, oh, Chanel and Daniel are going to be the swings. I don't think they'll be the swings. I honestly see Chanel more as someone who says, you know what, I got to turn on Daniel rather than working with him, because I do think Daniel could be a liability because of his shoulder. I'm more in the camp of like the shoulder is going to make him a bigger target than he would have been otherwise. So I have Chanel at 9 because I do think if they are the swing vote, Chanel's fine. Even if Chanel isn't the swing vote and the other couples target her and Daniel, I think they target Daniel before her. But I still don't think she's super safe, because we saw she was kind of in a boat without a paddle. She seemed like she had a good grasp on the tribe dynamics, which is a plus. She definitely knows the tribe dynamics well, but it's like she hasn't really made a good ally. The only person she's aligned with is Daniel, and she just doesn't seem 100% willing to bite there. And then 10, like I said, I had no one lower on the Orange tribe than 10, and that's because I have Mariah at 10, because I think that tribe is going to be fine. But if they lose, she's probably going to go home just because she's the weakest. But again, we didn't see anything of her. She was like the lowest edited player, except for her blowing the challenge. And if she blows the challenge again, like a Heather last year, luckily Heather blew the challenge on a reward, not immunity. But if she blows it on immunity, we're going to get rid of her. But I just don't see her blowing it. I think Jonathan's and Lindsay and Omar and even Marianne are going to do enough to keep that tribe safe. But if they lose, I have Mariah at 10, because I think she will be the boot on that tribe. Who do you have at 11?
At 11, I have oh my God, you literally just said her name. It's not Mariah. Chanel. I have Chanel there.
So she's your most likely to go home on the green tribe.
Yeah, I think that's probably, again, if only because they really played up how she doesn't have anyone really to work with, and she knows the game well, but that can kind of blow you up if you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And then, it's just one of those things where I think that Daniel is absolutely the liability, but if she turns on him too quickly and he finds out about that, he might be able to turn that up on against her and say, like, she was so quick to run from me. What makes you think she's going to be your ally when you got to merge up with every other tribe? And I think that might speak to them and be like, oh, you know what? Then,
And I honestly hope they do work together, because I do like them both. I think of all these tribes, the green is my favorite, because I really do love Lydia and High's humor. I love Daniel. I really do like Jenny and Mike, and I really like Chanel, even though we didn't see a lot of Chanel. But also last season, like, this was the Voce boot. So I think there's potential for someone that was like completely off the radar last episode to be on the radar. And I think Chanel could be that person, just because we got an inkling to her not being in an alliance, except for Daniel. But I'm not buying that her and Daniel are going to be that close.
Agreed.
But, in 11th, this is my last green person, and that is Lydia, because I do think I have someone lower. I do have Daniel lower, but Lydia I do have at 11th, because I do think if Chanel and Daniel are the swings, I could see them signing with Jenny and Mike. And then between High and Lydia, I think High is definitely the person you save. I think Lydia said she was out of her element, and it made for great TV. I think she's a great storyteller. But the problem is that Jenny was also a storyteller, and so is Mike, and so is even High.
You've got enough storytellers that you don't need to worry about having one for the show. And
so I don't know who the storyteller is there, and that's the thing, is like, is it Lydia? In that case, are we going to see a lot of her, or are they just trying to get a lot of confessionals from this green and orange tribe, because they're both going to keep winning? I really do think they're both going to keep winning. I think the blue tribe is really doomed here, but like you said, it could be different this season, where we see more tribes lose than usual. It's not going to be an UA situation, but if it is an UA situation, I think Lydia's fine, because the green tribe's going to win. I think Lydia was a lot stronger than we thought she'd be, but still one of the weaker members of her tribe regardless. The thing that she has over Daniel is the fact that she has all her limbs in place, and I think that's going to be the one thing that could defer the tribe to vote out Daniel over her. But I do think if Daniel is able to save himself in line with some people, I think Lydia could be the one they target. putting High on the outside, but I think High would be able to mend the bonds with the group better if they do get rid of Lydia. Lydia's a mixed bag because I really want her to succeed. I like watching her, but I don't know yet if Survivor's her thing. But I'm very happy to see her like at least be self-aware about it, and she is great on Twitter too. She is really fun to watch on Twitter.
She's great.
Yeah. So
I think
who's your number 12?
I was going to say no. I was going to say, is your 12 the only other person who's not blue?
No, actually, well, because in my mind, I think orange is winning, so I safely put someone from blue and someone in green in 15th and 16th. So to spoil it, like I do have Daniel at 15th because if they lose, if I'm thinking of one boot, it seemed like Chanel and Daniel were on the outside. Right. They could be swing votes, but they are kind of on the outside. With his arm
very
injury.
Smart.
And because they put up his edit so much in this one, I could definitely see them sending him home because we got a lot of good personal content earlier. I hope not because I like Daniel, but he just out of safety wise, I did put him down at 15. But literally 12, 13, 14, and 16 are all blue because I really think everyone but Dre is safe. And you have all the blues and Mariah left. All
the blues. So all the blues come after are 13 through 16.
So
Mariah, and again, I'm not going to rehash anything that you've already said. It's very much the same. It's just, you know, if someone's got to go, it's going to have to be her.
So tell me now, at 13, who is the safest? Because you have Drea safest of her tribe, but after Drea, who is the safest on the blue tribe? Is it Roxroy, Tori, Romeo, Swati? Who's the safest? Who's at 13?
So I'm you know what, man? I could eat my words. I've eaten them before. But I actually think Tori might be the safest overall.
Okay, interesting.
And I debated she was either going here or she was going 16th, and there was no real in between. But I love the way that she navigated her whole tribe and pretty much changed their minds about her. And I think that that's going to play into her ability to kind of keep herself around. She very much shows a willingness to like not only take one for the team, but also knows that like she's in danger. And when she does, she goes to work. And I appreciate a player who goes to work. I hate players who kind of like hang out and like, you know, hope for the best because
honestly,
that's not why you're there.
That's kind of what Zach did because he was kind of like, it's either me or you, so I'm just going to vote for you tonight to Tori. And then at Tribal, he was like, well, it's going to be me, so I'm going to use the shot in the dark, which I like the fact they used the shot in the dark because if he gets it right, then all votes are negated, and then they have to vote again with Zach being safe. So, like, Tori would probably get
and then Tori leaves.
But I don't know because I think Tori could have bonded with Drea, maybe with Romeo. I actually think someone else would have gone home if Zach was safe, and we'll get there when we get there. But I really don't think Tori was even the backup plan. I think if Zach had a vote, he would have voted Tori. But I really think Drea and actually I'll say my 12 is Romeo because I think Romeo had the awareness to jump ship from Zach. I think he had two alliances he was toying between. It was his older person's alliance or Zach, and he went with the older person's alliance. I think that says a lot about what Drea has on the tribe, like the grasp she has. But I think Romeo is in a good middle position where also without having Zach, I think he lessens his threat level because there's no pair for him anymore. He's kind of like a free agent, and I really think he's going to be someone who can easily get back into the dynamics of the tribe because right now you kind of have Tori and Drea on one side and then Swati and Roxroy on one side. His duo was Zach, and Zach's gone, and he was self-aware enough to jump ship and vote him out rather than sticking out as only vote for someone else. So I think
Romeo was up next for me as well.
13.
So,
and my 13 is Tori. So
he's my 14. He's 13 is Tori for you. Because remember, you've already told me you're 15th. So it's a little different. But I think they've got the most awareness of the tribe overall, and honestly, they also have the most use. And I think that speaks volumes, especially because, you know, Tori's got the ability to talk to the tribe and kind of keep them on her side. Romeo's got the knowledge to say, like, I really need to start making a choice and position myself well. The other two, not so much.
Yeah, and I think Tori also, like, because I have her at 13, I really think she honestly opening up about and being so honest, but almost chaotically so, I think that's a good thing because you know that she's going to tell the truth, and you know she's going to be so erratic that you can take her later on knowing that she's going to stay truthful to you. And honestly, she could be someone easy to beat at the end. And I hate that because I picked her to win. But I really think this is the opportunity for someone like Romeo and Drea to be like, all right, this is the three. Because honestly, Swati and Roxroy, who we both have as our two weakest people on blue, Swati and Roxroy are aligned, and they kind of have a good sense of, like, you know, their social politics and the way they're, ingrained into the tribe. Like Rocksroy's the provider, and Swati, played it very cool. Swati got the Zach boot rolling, and I really just think having more chaotic energy. Like if I'm Drea, I'm gonna say, yeah, I want to bring Tori, because Tori is gonna be someone who probably will piss people off, rub people the wrong way. But at the end of the day, I know she's gonna be loyal, and I think that's gonna be the perfect for Tori. Do I think she can win? Yeah, because there's so much time left. I really do. I think there's so much time left that a lot of players in their first day either get over eager, and we saw that with both Tori and Zach. But I think the difference is that Tori was able to like kind of seal things up.
Pivot. She was able to pivot.
I think in this early phase of the game, you're looking at Tori as the one you want to like drag along, almost like the JD on Ua.
Okay.
The problem is that Ua kept losing, that they got rid of JD eventually because they had no other options. But I think
they didn't really have anything
if Blue can win a few, if she makes the merge, I think she could get a new footing. So I think this is just a rough stumble, but I still think she has the potential to win because she obviously does have the prowess to get herself off the block. There's no block here, but the metaphorical block.
I know what you mean.
She was in the hot seat and she was able to get herself off of it and didn't get a single vote either, because Zach couldn't vote. So I really think she's okay. But again, this Blue team is weak that like any of them could go home. Who do you have at 15 and who do you have at 16? Who is your boot prediction of this week?
So I went back and forth. I gotta say, against my better judgment, I think that Swati is 15 and Rocksroy is 16.
I also have Rocksroy at 16, and I have Swati at 14. So let's talk about
the only reason that Swati trumps Rocksroy for me is because she has pull. And you know what? This kind of goes back to what we said about Rocksroy preseason. He really just doesn't feel like a bubble for anything. He had great moments in the episode. Like you said, he makes himself known as a provider, but like again,
but then he couldn't do well in the challenge, the second challenge, the immunity.
And that's and that's the thing is that like, cool, you won them the first one, but like, if immunity is where it counts. Immunity is where everything comes from. And if you're the person blowing the first immunity challenge, you're just lucky that Zach spoke louder than you. And I think that's truly like it comes down to he's lucky enough that Zach played a little too hard, but also B, and why she's in 15 is that Swati decided, I'm not going to get rid of you because you'll be easy to get rid of later. I can get rid of him now and, take him out. She is very smart. I think if Rocksroy, suddenly like flips things around and he's able to like kind of convince people, then you know what? Swati probably does end up going, because I just don't see a world where you get rid of Tori over Swati when Swati kind of, I think she thinks she's a little better at the game than she is right now.
Yeah. And honestly, she had a good first episode. She still like got the boot rolling, and she had an alliance with Rocksroy. But I think now, Tori and Drea are getting along better after they made up. And I think if Romeo tags along with them, I think it's going to be one or the other. And I do think Rocksroy is the person that I was saying. If Zach did get the shot in the dark and it worked, and Zach is safe, when they revote,
he's probably the one who goes down.
I think Tori, Drea, and Romeo vote Rocksroy rather than Tori. I really do think Tori stays, because I think Rocksroy, like Tori said in the confessional, she was like, after this point, he's built the shelter. What else do we need him for? And I think that's a good point, because he doesn't seem like he's meshing with anyone but Swati. And I think the only reason Swati's meshing with him is because she's too young to click with a group, and he's too old to click with the group. So they're kind of seeing each other meeting up. It's not like Jenny and Mike, where they're both older, but also both in the same sense gameplay-wise in their brain, where they're like, let's link up, let's be allies. It's much more like, I think it was their last resort, Swati and Rocksroy. I still think Swati has the edge only because she is younger and can probably chill better. Like, she can stay under the radar, whereas Rocksroy is just going to be more in-your-face presence just because he is older and more of like that, front and center spotlight person.
Agreed.
And I think if he was great in that second challenge, and it was someone, and granted, they all blew the challenge, like Zach and Swati didn't do well on the puzzle, but that's another thing, is like, Swati didn't do well in the puzzle either, but I think if Rocksroy had done well in the challenge, he'd be a lot safer. But I just think we really saw in this episode how much he was on the outs, and this is either going to be the start of his redemption story of him clicking with his tribe and learning how to bounce back, or it's just going to take him out next
his
week.
Downfall.
Yeah, and then the reason I have Daniel in 15th, like I said earlier, his arm, but also the previews are so deceiving that we saw Tori saying we got to target Drea, and we saw Daniel saying we got to target Mike, and that just immediately makes me think that everyone's going to turn it back on Daniel if he puts Mike's name out there, because I think Mike is going to get the upper hand of Daniel. And as for Tori's saying that to Swati, and in my scenario that I'm making in my brain, Tori tells Swati we got to get rid of Drea. Swati then goes and tells someone, and then it gets back to Drea, and then Tori is the one who can like kind of pin it back on Swati. Like I really don't know how that's going to go, but I just don't see Tori going just because she was a very complex presence.
No, I agree with
and
you.
Selfishly, I don't want to root for her, but like I really could see
I agree with you.
Tori, Swati, Roxroy, Daniel, and even Romeo, like all of them in danger, and that's why they're all at the bottom of the list. Even more so than Lydia, who is weaker, and Mariah, who's weaker.
Agreed.
But like we never really got a good reason to think that they would go home. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's really going to depend on who loses the challenge. Because even if Orange loses the challenge, then like we both don't get a lot of points because we have Mariah. I mean, you had her lower, but yeah, like that tribe just seems so strong that I just can't imagine anyone but Blue losing. But again, I hope I'm wrong because Blue is honestly the most chaotic to watch, and Green.
Yeah, they're fun to watch.
So I honestly like Orange to go because aside from Marianne, kind of Omar, and I kind of Lindsay, even though we didn't get a lot of Omar and Lindsay, like I didn't get anything from Mariah. Jonathan is a good person to like have in the game, but like I'm not necessarily excited to see him play.
They're not characters yet, and
yeah,
I think
so like Orange is who I'd like to see lose, but it's just not going to happen. I don't think so.
Well, we're gonna find out tonight when this is this episode is airing.
Yeah. So
so leave if you're listening, leave in the comments below. Do you think that we're correct? Do you think that we're way off? Do you think that we are not watching the way that we need to be? Talk to us because we're just two guys who watch the show and have opinions, but like as we know with reality TV, this is it's the collective that kind of figures out the formula. So let us know what you think.
Yeah, and we could be in for a Voce boot because it was literally the Voce boot.
Yeah,
but like someone who was super safe. Like if Mike Turner goes this week, maybe he will, and maybe we'll just bite our tongues. Even if someone like Omar or someone goes home, like they could because they had like a very fine first episode. You never really know, and I feel like the big characters in episode 1 end up being some of the big characters for the game. Like Shan was a big character episode 1, Evie was a big character episode 1, and they were like kind of the two dominating presences. Even like Xander and Danny were the ones who went on the mission with JD, and JD was short-lived, but like who's our JD here? Maybe it's Tori, maybe it's Roxroy, who knows?
Who knows?
A lot of these bigger characters like Marianne and like Jenny and Mike Turner, I think they really are end game players because we saw so much of them, but like we saw so much of them in a rooting interest. My only worry is that they're giving us so much of them early on because they're the early boots. I hope not because I really do like this group.
I don't know. We'll see.
And that's the last question I have for you. Like, what do you think of this cast in general and like just the vibe of this season? Do you think it's already better than the last season just in terms of like, the start? Like,
I think it's good. I actually think I like the cohesion of 41 more. I felt like they were a little bit more complementary to each other just overall as a full tribe. But again, it's so early. I feel like I got a better sense of like what the tribe was going to be like from like the first couple of episodes. And maybe it's just because there was chaos right off the bat. And this was like less chaos, more like, oh, well, that's how that goes, right? Because I think that would have been what happened. Like if JD had gone episode 1 or premiere of last season, that it would feel exactly the same. But this feels more like, this is, it's like when, again, my big brother roots. It's like when Jace goes on 17. You're like, yeah, okay. Like, could have seen that coming. Or like when Joey goes, it's like a classic first boot, not something that you want to see. Like 41 was like when Steve leaves in BB20. This is more like when Joey leaves in BB16 and you go, yep, okay, like that's what I was feeling. And you're like just kind of hoping that the next episode gives you a little bit more of something to like latch on to, sink your teeth in and like, kind of leave you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, I'd love for like Jonathan or Drea to be the boot just so we can get like something different. Yeah, exactly. Because I think this is a good group, and I don't like the cast as much as last season yet, but I think the best cast members of this season are rivaling the best cast members of the last one. It's just some of the other players. I think this is a better cast of characters, but I think last season had a better cast of actual just players. But I honestly kind of prefer in Survivor. I kind of want a good balance. So we're gonna have to see because like someone like Marianne right now is very character forward, but had some strategic thoughts. Where someone like Omar I think is more strategic, and we're not getting enough character. But then you have people who are well-rounded in both, like Jenny or Mike Turner. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Right.
But we both predicted Roxroy, so if he goes home, we'll both be at that large.
I will still be so in last place.
I was gonna say you might as well put Jonathan in last, so you could at least make some ground if he goes home.
I know.
No, but that won't happen.
One week I'll do something like that.
Anything else, Zach?
No, I mean, my recipe for reality goes to Jackson. I hope you get to play again soon, man,
Cool.
because that you deserve it. And also,
my recipe for
Zach,
reality
be
is
better.
gonna my recipe for reality is gonna go to high just because of the pig blood scene. I love that moment with Lydia just being like, "Why are you covered in blood?" He's like, "Ah," like I just love how he's even said on like interviews, he's like, "I just why if you're given the opportunity, why not just do it?" Like, and I like
Right.
that mindset because it's like
I like that mindset.
The cast, if everyone comes back together, the cast isn't gonna question like what why are you
Right.
covered in blood. It was more of Lydia just being concerned, but not like let me see an open wound. Like no one's
Right.
gonna do that. So I
It's like
love how he made the best of that moment and made some GIF worthy moments. And also Marianne in my runner up for Recipe for Reality.
God, she's so good.
Such a joy, but also like her reaction when Jackson said he was leaving is just one of the saddest but also funniest things I've ever seen on the show. And Jeff's reaction to that, it's been memed to death out there, but I mean it's so funny. But I do wish Jackson well. I hope he's handling this loss okay, and I hope he does get another shot to play, even if it's not this show, maybe like a Big Brother or something where he really can like just chill, because I think Survivor is such a tough element when you are going through something like that and dealing with the medications and all that stuff. It's like you have to be 100% willing to give your whole all into it, and that's even why like when I apply for Survivor or like when I continue to apply for Survivor, like I need to make sure that I'm willing to be able to like, if I get the call, just get right to work and start like just training my body and at least eating better and getting ready to like play, because it is physically taxing and demanding. And we are thinking of him. And Zach, I'm thinking of you too. Both you and the Zach who went home, because I know it's tough to see any super fan see their dreams cut short. But as a super fan, it's also kind of cool to say you're the first boot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. You know where they can find us, right, Dill? At the places
you can find us down there. Zach is hopefully at the end of his drive soon.
I am.
Did it at least fill the void well?
Oh yeah, Zach? It was great. This was great. I would do this again, 1,000%.
Awesome.
And if people like it, so you don't have to see my face. I'm just kidding.
No.
It's also like when you're thrown into your thoughts and you're kind of just like going on the fly, you get even more of a like a raw and unedited thought process. We've had some time to marinate on this, but this is like, you're getting what you get. So
So you can find us there, and this weekend the Pickle Awards are happening. Zach and I have a little something in store for you guys at the beginning of that show. Zach is also presenting a category or two, which we'll talk about off air. But it's going to be exciting award ceremony. So
you'll get that recording soon.
Yes, I know you'll send it to me. But this weekend we'll also hopefully get you a stream of some sort of like Bachelor reaction. Because there's not a ton to talk about. Just kidding. There's a ton to talk about. But like it's honestly not a lot to talk about. It's very much like it should be more straightforward, but it's
going to be a very big discussion on just what the happened, because it's really just a constant stream of like jaw dropping, like I can't believe that this is occurring in this moment. But that's it.
That's why we love reality television, though. So everyone, stay tuned, like, subscribe. If you like this podcast, if you like this video, like, keep telling us, keep liking it, subscribing it, and get it.
Tell your friends.
Get it enough views and likes so that we can put it on podcasts, so even more people can experience this from not just the U.S. but around the world. I mean, my other podcast with Kelsey for Marvel stuff has listeners in the Hishemite Kingdom of Jordan and in Denmark. So it's like this is exciting. So like if you listen, I don't even know if they have Survivor and Big Brother there, but if you do, let us know and like tell us, and we'll get it on audio. I'm in the process of getting it, and especially for a podcast like this, it'll be nice because you can't see Zach's face anyway, so you might as well listen to it.
Yay!
Yeah, but that's it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace out.